Hello and welcome to Catholic News Roundup. I'm Christine Niles. Here are this week's top stories. Critics are blasting Biden for pushing us to the brink of World War III. On Tuesday, Ukraine launched 8 U.S. long-range missiles into Russia after Biden authorized the attack. This after Vladimir Putin had already warned in September that launching such missiles would be considered an act of war by the U.S. and NATO. Not only are the American-made missiles far more destructive, they actually require U.S. cooperation to launch.
What Biden did here is so much worse. He didn't just give Ukrainians missiles and say, feel free to use them inside Russia. We are going to participate in the bombing of Russia, NATO and or the United States, because there's no way the Ukrainians can launch these missiles on their own, which means we are now, our military, our intelligence community, are participating in missile attacks inside the country of Russia.
Ukraine followed by launching British-made missiles into Russia. On Tuesday, Putin formally lowered the threshold for launching a nuclear strike, then followed by sending an intermediate ballistic missile into Ukraine. Russian Senator Vladimir Zhabarov fumed that Biden's decision was, quote, a very big step toward the beginning of the Third World War. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley weighed in.
I don't think Biden's making any calls. I think it's other people within the deep state who want this conflict to go on forever. This is escalation, and I think that's what's going on here.
Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie tweeted, by authorizing long-range missiles to strike inside Russia, Biden is committing an unconstitutional act of war that endangers the lives of all U.S. citizens. This is an impeachable offense, but the reality is he's an emasculated puppet of a deep state. President Trump is warning of nuclear annihilation.
We have never been closer to World War III than we are today under Joe Biden. A global conflict between nuclear-armed powers would mean death and destruction on a scale unmatched in human history. It would be nuclear Armageddon. Every day this proxy battle in Ukraine continues, we risk global war. We must be absolutely clear that our objective is to immediately have a total cessation of hostilities.
Putin has indicated he's willing to negotiate a ceasefire, but only if he talks with President Trump. And in other Biden news, he's awarded the nation's highest civilian honor to a major abortion activist. In a secret ceremony Wednesday, the outgoing president bestowed the Presidential Medal of Freedom on Cecile Richards, former CEO of Planned Parenthood for 12 years. She had a salary of nearly $1 million and oversaw the killing of 4 million babies during her tenure. The ceremony was not on the White House calendar, nor were any media invited. And in related news, Planned Parenthood is being targeted by the new Department of Government Efficiency. In an article recently published in the Wall Street Journal, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, both who head Doge, laid out their plan to trim the fat in the federal government. Doge will help end federal overspending by taking aim at the $500 billion plus in annual federal expenditures that are unauthorized by Congress or being used in ways that Congress never intended, including the nearly $300 million to progressive groups like Planned Parenthood. In an effort toward transparency, both men will also do a weekly Dogecast discussing their progress in eliminating fraud and waste.
Elon and I are going to start a separate track of Dogecasts that explain exactly what we're doing to the public to provide transparency in what is a once-in-a-generation project. We want to bring the public along with us, to lift the curtain, to take us behind the scenes of what actually that waste, fraud, and abuse in government looks like. However bad you think it is, it's probably worse.
And in immigration news, a federal official can't explain why hundreds of thousands of migrant children are missing. Javier Becerra, head of Health and Human Services, and also a Catholic, was grilled by House Committee Wednesday over his agency's failure to protect children.
Can you account for the whereabouts of those 400 and something thousand children The 320,000 that were put in the report by the Inspector General, the 85,000 that we've talked about before in 2023. Do you know where all of these children are and that they are safe? Yes or no?
Congressman, as I explained the process, we get these kids when they are referred to us by the Department of Homeland Security. We then provide them with care while they are in our custody. We lose custody of those kids once we find a vetted sponsor with whom they can stay.
A vetted sponsor that rapes and murders the people that they're entrusted to? Because you issue a rule that doesn't even do the background check? That's what you think is appropriate care for these children?
How did we see children end up in the homes of MS-13 gang members as the sponsor? How'd that happen?
Congressman, I don't have any information before me that you're referencing.
But if you don't do the vetting right, you don't know if they're engaged in criminal activity. That's how you end up with an MS-13 gang member as the sponsor. That's how you end up with pedophiles getting 20 children in the same home. That's how you end up there, because the vetting's been crappy.
It revealed that children were pimped out by their aunt, which it turns out the aunt wasn't even related to the child, the so-called aunt. Are you familiar with that story that was in there?
But that one I don't remember.
And do you remember the teenage girl that was in a house with unknown men with no private bedroom for her? Are you familiar with the sponsors that utilize a strip club in Jacksonville as an address for where this child, where a child should be settled?
Congressman, as I said, I don't have the information on that Florida grand jury report in front of me. I certainly can go back and take a look at it.
The questioning came after a federal whistleblower revealed government-funded child trafficking is big business.
This is a GSA contract that was awarded to MVM.
And so it says here in this document that action obligation $40 million, base and all option, total contract value $347 million. That's over $250 million. That's a lot of money to transport unaccompanied children. I mean, this is a big money business. It just seems like lost in all of this is any semblance of right and wrong.
In other congressional news, the head of FEMA was grilled after a staff member was caught refusing aid to Trump supporters. On Tuesday, Deanne Criswell answered tough questions from a House committee on FEMA's relief efforts after Hurricane Helene.
Administrator Criswell, is Miss Washington lying to us?
Miss Washington has...
She said it's common practice. You said it's reprehensible and isolated. Both statements can't be true. So someone's not giving us the facts, and I'm kind of trying to figure out who's not telling the truth.
The actions that Miss Washington took were unacceptable.
Well, you had another employee. Now, they remain anonymous, but I think one of my colleagues pointed this out earlier. A FEMA official who spoke on condition of anonymity said Miss Washington likely received, quote, very clear guidance from her supervisors. Is that not, is that person lying too?
I have not received any evidence outside of the screenshot that Miss Washington directed.
So those
her
two people are wrong. They're not telling the truth to us.
We are currently investigating this.
But that's not what you said. You said
this
is isolated, reprehensible, hasn't happened. This is the only time. And they're saying, nope, 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 it's commonplace.
I am saying that FEMA's mission is to help all people.
Well, let's look at maybe the best
after
evidence we have is the actual screenshot. Can you put the screenshot up on the screen? Let's look at what the text message said. The text message said, implement best practices. Like, this is the best practices. We're going to implement them. And they talk about making sure you're going in pairs or with more than one person, avoid the Trump homes, drink your water, take your towel, coconut waters. So stay hydrated, walk with someone else, and don't go to the Trump homes. It seems pretty common and matter of fact in the actual evidence we do have, the text message itself. But you're still saying Miss Washington and this other person aren't telling the truth.
Do you think it's acceptable for billions of American taxpayer dollars to be spent on housing people invading our country, but yet Americans in North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida are still homeless and have yet to fully receive support?
Congresswoman, we have been directed.
Is that equitable?
We have been directed by Congress to administer the shelter and services program. If Congress chooses to change that direction, we will follow that law.
Congress is changing that direction, absolutely. We're going to put American citizens first, not migrants, because we don't believe that's equitable. You see, the situation, housing illegal aliens while Americans suffer with Americans' taxpayer dollars, that's not equitable. As a matter of fact, that's the biggest failure that could be ever done to the American people. It's such a failure, it should be treason.
Also this week, a transgender bathroom brawl on Capitol Hill. With the election of Congress's first transgender member, Delaware's Sarah McBride,
invested in equality as an LGBTQ person.
A new bathroom bill is being proposed restricting Capitol bathrooms only to one's biological sex. South Carolina's Representative Nancy Mace introduced the bill, which states that, quote, allowing biological males into single-sex facilities, such as restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms designed for women, jeopardizes the safety and dignity of members, officers, and employees of the House who are female. Mace started getting death threats from transgenders, including this one.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, I hope that one day I do find you in that woman's bathroom and I grab your ratty looking hair and drag your face down to the floor while I repeatedly bash it in until the blood's everywhere and you're dead. Thank you. I hope that Nancy Mace receives this message well. Kisses.
Instead of backing down, Mace doubled down, issuing a new House resolution to ban males in federal bathrooms, not just in D.C., but all over the country. This was quickly followed by Republican Speaker of the House Mike Johnson issuing a rule banning biological men from women's bathrooms on Capitol Hill.
A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman.
While McBride is strongly objecting to the proposed bills, he has said he will follow the rules. And in Oklahoma, the state is bringing Bibles back into public schools. School Superintendent Ryan Walters made the announcement November 14th.
Our kids have to understand the role the Bible played in influencing American history. It's very clear that the radical left has driven the Bible out of the classroom, which leads to a lack of understanding of American history. We will not stop until we've brought the Bible back to every classroom in the state.
Oklahoma is the first state to bring back Bibles to the classroom since the 1960s. And that is this week's Catholic News Roundup. Please visit stellamaris.media and subscribe for the latest news and updates. And also remember to support our sponsors, realestateforlife.org and the Catholic-owned app. Realestateforlife.org is the most pro-life way to buy or sell a home, and the Catholic-owned app is the most Catholic way to shop. Thank you so much for watching. May God bless your week. I'm Christine Niles.